Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, and Joker. We're just getting up this morning and Joker's used to his run. He didn't want to give me a sit. He's cold, he's wanting to run right now. So I let him get away with a murder here. We're doing our walkabout and a potty break at 7:05 or 10 in the morning. Brr. It is cold up here. It's down in the 30s. So we're probably gonna have frozen ice on the buckets and all that good stuff. Hoses get frozen. You've got to deal with a cold, but here in California it's not as bad as back east. I wouldn't want to live in some of those cold areas and have to have a cold season like that. Brr. Even though they get used to it, it's just too cold for me. So this morning I wanted to go through some things. I don't know if you can see me. I got you on a stick this morning, so I'm not used to this. So I wanted to go through some things in regards to one of my followers on YouTube asked me to talk about bloodlines and genetics and how they seem to track certain parts of the world, and a little bit more about that. I've mentioned it before in some of my videos, but I haven't really had a video just on that. But in general, bloodlines are dictated and genetics are dictated by the people that are into the things that they're into. So if you've got Schutzen, IGP, IPO, whatever you want to call it, came from Germany. It was orientated towards the German Shepherd to start, but a lot of different breeds play in that sport nowadays. But in a general sense, the genetics, talking about the German Shepherd, have been they have a depth of genetics over the years. So it's that longevity and the breeding cycles that they go through that the people want certain things out of the dog. So in Schutzen as an example, the dog has a propensity, the good ones that are bred and the people that know what they're looking at will be wanting a nice grip. They want the dog to bite way back in the back of the molars. And that's something that's prominent with that sport of IGP, because they accent that within the sport, within the judging, within the point structure, that they want a really good grip and they want the dog biting way back and deep in the mouth. So the genetics start to take hold. In ring sport, as an example, the French ring sport has a lot of the routines that have what they call an esquive, where the dog will be running down the field and the last second the decoy will go to move or try to get away from the dog, and the dog's losing points if he can't stay in the bite and be quick enough to get the guy and hold the distance to be really tight. So they want a dog that's a little smaller, and you see that denoted with the French breeds are a little bit smaller because they're playing their sport. So that genetic stamp starts to, you've heard me talk about genetic stamp a million times over, starts to take hold. KNVP is really not a sport, it's actually a certification. It's a lot more oriented towards law enforcement, so their build on how they build their dogs is a lot of difference, and that's a very interesting thing. KNVP has a suit that's a more canvas. The dog's going to have to bite harder and be really into the bite, or he's going to lose it, because that's going to get slippery. He's going to slip off the bite. So you'll see a lot more prominence in that type of behavior with their bite and their tenacity. The dogs are a little larger. They want a dog that's going to be able to take the dog down, the man down, in a military or a police orientated scenario or situation. They want the dog to be able to take the man down. So they need something a little bit larger size. Belgium, they're a little bit influenced by that as well, so you see them doing the same thing. So these sports and the things that are done, the people that are around them that are into it are the ones that are breeding, and those bloodlines start to take hold over time. The reason that we go over to Europe and do most of our buying over there, and the dogs, a lot of them are imported from over there in the military and police, is because they have a lot more depth, they have a lot more years. KNVP, some of these lines go back 200 years. And I know that my dog Arrow, his lines are very strong in a lot of different things. I've been told that, that somebody that really knows their lines, that they understand that that's why I didn't want my dogs to go to layman, because my dogs are very keen within their work because of Arrow and because of the bloodlines that I've got that have been imported over from France and the Netherlands, Holland, etc., in their KNVP lines. Then you got FCI lines. They're a little different. FCI is the parent club in Europe. They're the large organization over there that holds a lot of standing. So the AKC has said that they will recognize the Dutch Shepherd over here with the FCI lines behind them. They don't recognize the KNVP because KNVP is an open registry. It's an honesty system, and anybody can post on there and put up their bloodlines and say that their dog is this or that. It's not a solid registry like AKC. So because of that, AKC is really rigid, but purity in that regards a lot of times will cause problems. Going outside of your bloodlines and going out for strength and going out for size, going out from some other things will actually make your dog more solid if you don't do it all that often. If you do it every now periodically. The bitch that I got in from France ended up having what I feel anyway from looking at the dog. You can see the dog's genetics in it as far as its body and structure, and if you've been around it for many years as I have, I can see bull terrier in the dog's head. And it's known that they've thrown that dog back to the Dutch Shepherd, back to the bull terrier for tenacity and for a lot of other traits that are very advantageous for military and police application. And that's what it's all about, you know, a dog that's going to get into drive and go into the job and really be tenacious about taking it to the bad guy. That's what it's all about. So just realize that to answer the person's question and to highlight this, that each part of the world and where these dogs are bred and what they're bred for whatever sport that they're into, takes time, and over time that genetic stamp takes hold. And you'll see something like that within KNVP is a great example. Their box guard, their guard of box, the dog will be on top of box, the decoy goes out in the forest and the dog's told to stay at this box and guard it. The decoy comes up and the dog will give him hell and he'll stay right on that box, and his intensity is amazing. And I see that all the time when I have a dog here that all of a sudden I will notice that the dog is going after a bull and starts barking and going crazy, and he's on top of that bull and he won't quit. And that trait, that whole behavioral genetic stamp is genetics, is there, and you almost don't have to teach it. You know, it's very easy to teach the box guard with a dog that's got lineage like that behind him, because of the propensities in that breed stamp, that genetic stamp that's solid within the dog. So just keeping in mind when you're shopping for a dog and you get a working dog, you may be outclassed, you may be overwhelmed by what this dog gives you. And that's why I say that my dogs are really not that good for laymen, unless they have a professional, unless they have somebody that's going to be with them to guide them and to help build that dog, and understanding genetic stamps and understanding why the dog does what it does. You're going to have problems. Okay, I just got that return with that one little puppy, and I'm enjoying the hell out of her. She's got a lot of attributes that I love. But I can see how she'd probably be a handful for a person that had no clue, you know, and that's kind of what happened. She needed guidance, and she wasn't around a trainer. She was up in her cabin up in the hills, and the dog was probably a lot of dog for her, and she just decided she didn't want to keep it. And she says it has a heart murmur. Heart murmurs puppies are very common, and they grow out of them. And her heart murmur was on the low scale, 2 to 3. I still got to go to the vet and verify and confirm all this and see how she's doing with time, but I don't see any change of behavior, anything that's showing and denoting anything that's a physical problem, to be honest with you. So that's my personal opinion, that she's going to grow out of it. She's already starting to get a lot better with her missing that imprint period and that, because of the work that I've been putting in. I just took her out to Costco yesterday and I flooded her. What is flooding? You'll see Michael Ritland talked about it in a couple of his videos, where he's talking about a dog that has a high drive for the ball and is ball crazy. And they come back after they've retired, and he takes them in for the Warrior Foundation. And he says one of the ways that he gets the dog to start calming down and to start kind of going back into civilian life in that regards is to take a whole bucket of balls is one way of doing it. That's just one way of many, I'm sure. And pour it into the kennel. After a while, the dog gets so used to having balls that they become blasé, they become neutral to it, right? So you're taking that edge off of the dog. That's flooding, right? And flooding is one of the many tricks that we use in training. And so I went to Costco yesterday, right with all those people coming in and out of the door with that real crowd, heavy crowds, and put her right down with me right there standing there with her in front of the door. And she's not barking as much, she's not freaking out on people as much. So it's a slow process, and I'll keep building this until I acclimate her and get her stabilized in regard to missing her imprint period. Luckily, she's young enough that I can do this and I can still save the dog. So, but it's a lot of work. I'm going to be doing this work real heavy and always being aware and conscientious of it probably for the rest of the dog's life. But 90 days probably what it's going to take me with this program that I got going. The weekends trying to hit as many places as I can with public and not having the environment because of the COVID is tough right now. You know, usually I would have events going on, and I'd have maybe a Christmas parade as an example that we usually have every year. I'd go up to the Christmas parade and go with all those thousands of people and go out there with my dog and do as much flooding as I could so the dog just balances out, right? You got to take a slow and methodical process and teach her the rules of the game, and after a while she'll become stable. But it's tough right now with this COVID, so I've got the weekends I can still go. Bass Pro I think is still open. Maybe not, but we'll find out. And then places that I usually would go, Victoria Gardens, that mall, most of the places in the shops are all closed now from the lockdown. So I have to really pick and choose my locations and think about my times. You know, the weekends are going to be busier than the weekdays, that kind of thing. So, but that's just a little bit of background. I got off point there when we started the video. We were going to talk about genetic stamps and where these dogs are bred throughout the world. Just realize that each sport kind of dictates that. So you want to look at where the dog's being bred, why they're being bred, what are they into, and what are you getting yourself into. A good example of that is show quality shepherds, American shepherds, versus working lines, right? Working lines usually come from Europe, and show dogs that are show shepherds, there's a big foothold of those as far as German shepherds in America. So those show dogs still go out and play in the sport. They're a really good looking dog in a lot of different ways, if you're into that sort of thing. But at the same time, they don't work as well as the working lines. But again, a layman would have a hard time with a working line shepherd. A lot of times the girlfriend, she breeds shepherds, so I can kind of get into this a little bit, but she'll get kickbacks in the working line, so she kind of tends to start sliding towards the show line type of dogs a little bit to try to make it easier for the general public in her sales, because she doesn't want to suffer a kickback. She doesn't want to suffer a return like I just got with this little puppy, right? So it is what it is. It's all part of the game, but genetics make a difference, and you need to understand what those genetics mean. So I always ask questions of breeders as an example of this. Is a little bit of good feedback for you. What are you into? What are you breeding for? Do you show dogs? Are you into Schutzen? Are you into ring sport? You know, those type of things are going to make a difference, because now that person is accenting what he's into within his bloodlines, right? And those bloodlines will tell. You know, genetics matter. So it matters. So I've got a guy down the way that's a ring sport. He's a French national. Him and his wife have a training company, and they do real good in this area. But they breed Malinois, but he's breeding working lines, and the dog, it tells. You know, the dogs start to go out and do real well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what one of the top trainers just bought one of his little puppies, or has one of his little puppies. He's building the puppy now towards ring sport, towards working dog application. And he's doing a great job with his puppy. But it's genetics, you know, genetics matter. And he's really pumped about having this puppy, because the puppy's giving him all this that he needs to go towards his endeavors of going to get top scores with this new dog he's got. So, but it matters, you know, genetics matter. So just keep it in mind. I thank you very much. You guys have a good day, and I hope you enjoy your Christmas. Stay safe. Me, I'm out here in the wild high desert. And our properties out here are kind of like 10 acre, 5 acre parcels, 3 to 4 acre parcels. So our properties are away from each other to a point where we, and this whole thing's a lockdown facility. So, but in a big way, it's a little secure for me to do the COVID if I stay the hell away from people and don't go into town, which is hard. Behavior, stopping behavior. Human behavior and our own behavior, and trying to stay away from people is tough. So, have a good day, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Joker, with me. With me. Good boy. Yay, good boy. Are you a happy dog? Are you a happy dog? He gets frisky in the morning. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Good boy, Joker. Yay, Joker dog. Yay. All right, get. Oh, bobble check. Bobble check. Bobble check. Yeah. Yeah, good boy. Good. Yeah. All right, we're done.